Hello everyone, Neil Sheth here, and welcome to How Do You Make Money, where I interview entrepreneurs and talk about how they make money by breaking down their product, marketing, and sales strategy. And today we're going to be talking with a good friend of mine, Meagan Williamson, who is a Pinterest marketing strategist and obsessed pinner. Meagan teaches overwhelmed and confused creators and business owners how to harness the power of Pinterest to grow their audience and visibility with confidence and ease. Thank you so much, Meagan, for being here. And I know you're a couple of weeks from being you, and we were just laughing about the risk of you being due on this. I would be massively grateful, but also
Yeah.
panicky if that happened. But
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for sharing your time with us.
Oh, of course. I love chatting with you, Neil. Yeah, we were just laughing about how much we both enjoy chatting, and I'm excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. So look, I know loads about you, but for those that are coming across you for the first time, share, take us from the top and just share, how did you end up falling into being a Pinterest marketing strategist?
Yeah, I'm the actual definition of an accidental entrepreneur. Although, if you talk to people who've known me like for a significant amount of time, even people who didn't know me a long time, but maybe knew me in my previous career, they're like, oh, of course you work for yourself now. I was surprised by it. Other people were not. So I live in Canada, and actually I'm a trained school and child psychologist, and actually I'm qualified to practice as a educational psychologist in the UK because I did do a stint of living in Northern Ireland and Scotland for a while. So my training is in educational and school psychology. I worked in clinical settings like children's hospitals. I worked in the school board. Love that work. And like all things, sometimes you do a particular type of education, you love it, you have a lot of success in it, but it doesn't always fill up all your buckets. And I always found that I kind of missed that creative piece in my life. So while I was living in Northern Ireland, I could not get a job for the life of me. Nobody wanted to hire me, even though I was qualified to practice in the UK. And at the time, my partner said, Meagan, you spend a lot of time online. You're very computer savvy. You're like bored to tears because you don't have much to do. You should really start blogging. So I started blogging about life and more for friends and family, and just like kind of interested in web development. So learned how to custom code a WordPress website, learned about social media marketing, learned about how to get more eyes on my blog content, and actually I realized this only like a few months ago, I did a stint as a virtual assistant, but we didn't call it that at the time. So I worked for a woman in America, helping her with some online work, research, writing, helping her be consistent on social media. And part of that was that I fell into using Pinterest, which was brand new. I was an early adopter of Pinterest as a platform, and it just kind of took on a life of its own, really. Like as a creator, I started creating content, working with brands, and understanding a little bit more from a creator perspective about how to leverage social media channels to promote the content that we were creating. And I returned to my job at the school board, worked full time as a school psychologist, and had this secret life as a content creator, and started quietly working with brands at the time.
Mm.
And then I got married, got pregnant. And when I was preparing for my maternity leave in Canada, we were very lucky. We had at the time 12 months leave. We now have 18 months paid leave from our government. And I kind
That's
of thought,
that's
well,
generous.
very generous. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Yes, we have very, very generous paid parental leave, actually. So both parents can take paid leave. And I kind of was excited to become a mom, but also worried that, like, what was I going to do with all this time? And of course, my son came onto the scene with like a beautiful bomb going off in my life. And within the first few months, I actually started doing my side hustle became more and more prominent as people started saying, hey, can you do some consultancy work for us? And next thing I knew, I was asking my husband to quit his job and take care of our infant son full time. I was hiring staff because I could safely actually try out working for myself while being on leave. And that's what I did. And I haven't gone back. And so now my son is 4.5. We have a thriving, growing, profitable business. We're about to welcome our second child into our life. So this will be my first entrepreneur baby. And yeah, it's like the rest was history. It just has taken on a life of its own.
That's amazing. That's so inspiring. So, before we get into what do you actually sell to make money, um, can you give us a sense of your business? Whether share as much or share as little as you want.
Sure.
5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, or specifics.
Yeah, so multiple six figures. I just did my taxes for last year. So I still operated as a sole proprietor last year here in Canada. So, small team I went from having like no staff to a lot of staff to little staff. And so last year we employed 5 people part-time, including my husband. Actually, he works for me. And yeah, multiple six figures, the most profitable year we've ever had. In the sense of, I was tweaking and scaling and everything just hit that like sweet spot. It's interesting because I've been pregnant this year, and as the leader of the company, I did decide very consciously to not take on as much this year. Um, Again, growing my family was a priority, and being a little bit older and having a business, I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. So yeah, we are at that stage where things just keep growing and they've taken on a life of their own. But I've also said, okay, like I think we need to throttle a few things while I figure out how to adapt to having a second child in my life.
That's amazing. So, so do you hire anyone full time apart from your husband?
No. So yeah, my husband and I are the only full-time employees. And even really, he's not a full-time employee because he takes care of our son full-time. So
Wow.
he's our son's full-time caregiver. And probably, now that we're layering in a second, he will remain in the predominant caregiving role in our family. And he loves it. He's like a big kid himself. And I love work, right? Like,
Yeah,
I really am fueled by those intellectual endeavors of growing and figuring out problems.
yeah.
Like, hence why I was always probably a natural entrepreneur, and always was destined to work for myself in some capacity. And so a lot of people that we work with now, we've moved away from we work mostly with Canadian contractors because it makes things easier for our taxes.
Mhm.
And there are a few people that I work with in quite a large capacity, so that probably their paychecks from me are full time. But we kept things as contract because it was just
Got it.
simpler taxes wise.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm playing chess in my head with the business. Like at night, I'll be sitting there. My wife will complain. She'll be like, "Neil, you're not present right now,"
Yeah.
and that is something I need to improve. Hopefully, she doesn't overhear this conversation. Otherwise, it'll kick off another conversation.
Yeah.
But it's just there's just problems and tactics or opportunities, and you just have to figure it out and play chess and go, if I do
Yeah.
this, would that lead to this? And so, yeah, when you said, I love playing, I guess business, and it reminds
Yeah.
me of
I don't know if this will resonate with you, Neil, or it's probably
that.
why we get along so well. And if this, like anyone listening or watching, I think that there's an aspect, like it's not easy to be with somebody, especially like a partnership, a personal relate, like a marriage or relationship with somebody who's an entrepreneur, because it's really hard to turn off. So actually, I was with my healthcare team yesterday, checking on the baby, and my midwife said to me, Meagan, when are you going to finish work? And I said, well, officially I'll be done whenever, but I work for myself. And I said, you don't really understand. Like, it's just part of who I am. And my husband said he was listening, and my husband's very different from me. And it's like, it works in our favor, but then it also results in a lot of the same conversations that you and your partner have. Is that he said that he was listening to a podcast about successful entrepreneurs. And it said the thing that makes them different is that they're relentless and it's not a choice.
Mm,
And it really clicked for him. And he said, Meagan, it's really amazing watching you, and it's exhausting because I see that you can't turn off.
yeah,
And so you'll be enjoying life, you'll be doing something, and I'll see something happen, and I can tell that you're thinking about work. You're with
yeah,
us, you're
yeah,
there. We know you love us, we know you're whatever, but it's like I can't. And I've always been like that my entire life. I'm a problem solver, whether it's in like, maybe, I see something on the street, or I just I thrive with my own mental to-do list, and I love solving problems and I love helping people. So it's just like, no wonder I was in psychology, right? Like that's the whole nature of psychology, is doing gathering data, doing these psychological assessments, taking the information, coming up with a clinical impression, and then creating an action plan for what we're going to do to improve that person's life when it comes to their schooling or their education. And so like I apply those same types of things to what I do now, and I actually like, that's what gets me going in the morning, right? Like I'm, other people are enjoying their coffee listening to the birds, and I'm thinking about like,
Mm.
how could I tweak that, or who could, what's gonna happen here. But it can have a lot of stress on people who don't think like that, and if you're in a personal relationship with them,
Yeah, it's
right?
so true, isn't it? It's like like for us, thinking about that is the equivalent of chilling on a bench and looking at the birds. Like
Yes.
so for instance, this is going to sound geeky, but I would love to be on a beach, and I would love to be you know, lying on the beach, or lying on a sunbed,
Hmm.
thinking about the business, like
Yeah.
planning the business.
Yeah.
Like, there's only so much you can do, like staring at water, right? I'll get bored in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whereas,
you do. I'll tell you. So my family goes to Mexico twice a year. We've done it since my son was quite young. We travel with my family. And
whereabouts?
so we go outside of like off the coast. We fly into Cancun and we go down the coast to like a little village. We
Okay.
go to different places. We try out different places. My brother loves Mexico. I love Mexico. And I do love going, like I'm a total, like I love the beach.
Mm.
But I have to say, the first day or two, I don't think about work, but there's a part of me that I actually have my best business days on those
Yes.
vacations, because
Yes.
I give myself a few days to rest. I reduce my expectations in terms of my daily workload of what I need to do. And then it allows my brain to think about the next steps and to step away objectively from what's been happening and think, okay, well, where's this going? Where do I want it to go? What do I need to do that? And I actually think that rest fuels my brain for sort of like creating new neural pathways for
Mhm.
things that, like, when we're stuck in our daily routines or the monotony, like, we all know this last year,
Mhm.
like our lives are like, Groundhog Day over and over again. And I'm really craving those, like, the more when I can go and like go into a setting where some people would sit there, have a cocktail and like veg out for 5 hours. I
Mhm.
veg out for about 25 minutes.
Mhm.
Then I go and get my notebook.
Oh, it's the
And I start
the best
writing, right?
thing, isn't it? It's the best time to get ideas when you're in
Mhm.
that setting. You're free from the daily to-do list.
Yeah.
Like, I so resonate with that. And we're going off topic here, but why not? Just on that, I'll give you a quick example. So whenever I go into London, I don't think I've publicly shared this, but
Mhm.
um, whenever I go into London, so I live in London, but just on the outskirts,
Mhm.
and often I'll have business meetings, or I need to see a client or a partner, and I'll head into London, and then let's say I'm in King's Cross, or or Baker Street, whatever. What I'll do after the meeting is I will purposefully walk to a station that's closer towards home, but
Mm.
I'll go for this really long walk. Generally, sometimes it's minimum 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour. Maximum, it's been 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I'll walk through, if possible, I'll try and walk through, say, Hyde Park
Yeah.
or Regent's Park, which are just two super nice parks. But what I find is my best ideas and come then, and also I find clarity in my
Yeah.
thoughts. And then I come home, so I jump on the train, and I'm a different person. Like,
You're
I,
like
I
firing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm just like, okay, this is not so important. I can work on this. Let me think about this. And that space, I always look forward to going into London just to get some space to think. And I
But you know
find
what,
I do
Neil,
that
you're
well.
saying this is a bit of a tangent. It's not, because that is where you identify how to scale, how to create more profit, how to create profit that you enjoy creating in your business. I think that sometimes, like, you have to be able to have that space for those new perceptions or new ideas, or even challenging your own thinking. Like, this is how I've been making money. Like, I had that shift when and this comes up all the time in my industry. Like I mentor other people who are Pinterest strategists and Pinterest social media managers, and we get caught in doing a lot of client work, a lot of one-to-one client work, and it's it's fulfilling, it's amazing because you get to have that like direct impact, but it's also the most time intensive. And there's also this clash of like when I came into the online world and I've been doing it for so long, was like, the early days of rolling my eyes, the people who were coaching other people who had never done the thing. And,
Mhm.
I make X amount of dollars, but they had never actually worked in doing the work. And so I was very leery of successful online entrepreneurs. And I've read a lot of like exposés on it. And it can be a lot of murkiness, but it's interesting because I think that um, a lot of people are interested in how to increase their revenue or their profit or scale some services and reduce. And I had that, right? Like I ran a Pinterest marketing and management agency, which was great. And we had constant like referrals, and it wasn't for lack of work. We were making a lot of money. I was spending a lot of money on my operation costs, but it got to a point where it wasn't really fulfilling me anymore. I felt throttled by my growth. And then I was kind of thinking, like, a lot of people are asking me about how I could support them in other ways, but I wasn't ready to do it. And I think it was probably in one of these moments where I was like on a beach watching my kid play, or and I just started to, when I could step away or walk through a park, and like I have a dog, and we always go for long walks, and I love my walks by myself. And I'm not somebody, like, people will be like, oh, do you listen to podcasts? I sometimes do, but I actually don't usually, because I want to give myself, my brain, time to just like think, um and I don't want it to be too noisy. And that's often when I have those shifts, like, okay, I'm going to reduce my one-to-one work, or I'm going to increase my one-to-one work, or I'm going to create a product. And that's where something shifted in my business. And really, like, in term talking about money or profit or revenue, like, it's those times when I think I have to shut out other influences, right? Because it's very easy to also get diluted by other people's
Mm.
ideas or watching what they're doing. And I'm somebody that I have to be fully, how do I say it? Like, it has to be my own thing
Mm.
before I move forward.
You've just explained exactly how I think as well. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Let me explain that in a different way. Um, you can't just take someone else's
Mm-mm.
launch method or
No.
email copy and then just send it because it doesn't feel right. So yeah, I love that process. And actually what you find, in summary, sometimes actually doing it the hard way, it just, you end up getting it. You will make
Yeah.
more money in the future.
Yes.
It resonates with you. You're fully integrated into it. Whereas if you do a copy and paste,
Mm-hmm.
you're never really going to understand it. Whereas if you
No.
go fully 100, 1000% deep in
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is you're trying to do, and you, yes, get some inspiration, yes, get some influence outside,
Of
but
course.
then
Yeah.
add your own spin to it, add your own thinking. For instance, today I'm working on, this morning, around our process of content creation for this new brand that we're working on, that we're about to launch.
Mm.
And there's tasks and templates out there of how to create content and the flows people go through. But you know what? I need to dictate what my flow is myself. I
Yes.
take all this
Yeah.
inspiration, but I need to fully understand it and really feel like, yeah, this is how it would work for me. And until you guys can do that, you won't ever feel like it's your own. And
So
that's,
here's a question for you, Neil, is, do you think that's because of it's who you are ethically? Is it because it's who you are cognitively or intellectually? Like, what? Because I'm the same, right? Like, and actually, to a point that is probably held me back at times,
yes.
but once I'm ready, I go. And actually, people will say to me, like, in the Pinterest marketing community, um I'm very adamant that, like, I'm friends with a lot of people in the Pinterest marketing world. I really respect quite a few people, but I refused, like, I just don't, it's part of my ethics that I learned through my own methodologies. I learned by partnering with Pinterest, with Tailwind, which is an approved partner with Pinterest. And through my own experimentation, I've never taken a Pinterest course by anyone else. I've never been mentored. And like maybe it could be seen as a negative thing, but when I teach something, it's because I've lived, I've breathed it, I tested it,
Yes.
and I understand it. And actually, that's what, like, from the world of psychology, I would never, I couldn't sit down with somebody else's data and then sit with a parent and say, this is what you should do. Like I had to be able to sit down with parents, look them in the eye, and gain their trust and say, I know your kid. And then I would create, it was almost like a case, like a lawyer, like I would put together, and some of it was really hard to share. Um, like things that maybe that would be very difficult as a parent to hear about your child if they were struggling in school, or what have you. So it's like I bring that now, where it's like I would never teach something that I didn't fully understand myself. And it's like, because I don't want to be, I would never want to get on a stage and talk about like a launching methodology that I didn't actually use, maybe
Yes.
fail at, adapt. And you're right, like, there's all the templates out there, there's all the sales pages, but ultimately you have to make a lot of mistakes to get to where you're meant to be. And you thrive when you make those mistakes and you think about how it applies to your own unique business model. There's no magic bullet, right? Like, and that's what everyone wants, overnight magic bullet. I'm going to buy, or I'm going to buy this program, or I'm going to read this book, and then I'm going to make $1 million. And it's like, no
Yeah.
matter what, you
It
have
doesn't work like
to.
that. I mean,
No.
as an example, I don't fully understand the swipe files that people offer,
Mm,
where, hey, swipe my social media posts, and I know it works. So if you're going to offer it in business,
mm-hmm,
it works. People download it. People love it. People lap that stuff up.
mm-hmm.
Me personally, I don't get it, because I
Yeah.
can't just take a swipe file, add some copy, post it as my social media, like take someone else's template.
Yeah.
And you're right, this approach and this level of thinking actually probably does us a disservice, because
Yeah.
honestly, I've seen people that have taken a course, they followed, and I've taken tons of courses, I've spent
Of course.
thousands of pounds. They take the course, they follow every step along the way, and then they just grow their business massively. Whereas I do it the hard way. I don't know why, but I've always preferred to do it the hard way, because it just, like, I'll go through a course and then I'll go, no, I'm not going to do it that way because it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
Or like
But that, you
like
just said it, it doesn't feel good. So it's probably like with you, it's a bit ethics, right? It's just, it doesn't feel right, or doesn't feel good, or it doesn't make sense to you yet.
yeah, I don't know if it's ethics. I would love to say it's ethics, so everyone thinks I'm a great guy. Um, but I think I, I was a project manager for 10 years. So my
Yeah.
role was defining processes, defining architectures, looking at problems, and then
Mm,
going, no, this is how we're going to solve it. So I think I'm just anal. I don't actually,
yeah.
here's what it is. I don't get something unless I've defined it. And so, for instance, if you
Right.
told me, Neil, to do on Pinterest, do this, 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 I'm the type of person that would get my book out and then have to write it down. You just
Yeah.
like exams, have to write it down, make sure I've kind of spun it in my own way.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm loving this conversation. But
But
look,
don't you think, like, you own it then? You own it, right? Like if you spin it in your own
yeah,
way and do it, you own it. And then that way it's like, I say that to people, especially people who are mentoring, is I've made lots of mistakes. And when I make the mistake, I own it. And I say, well, at least I made it. And it wasn't something, like we all learn through making mistakes, profit, revenue, growing, we've all been there.
yeah, and maybe it's the control, maybe it's the ownership side of it, or the controlling side
Hmm.
of it. Make, like, and I think for those that are listening in, I think the message here is there's tons of training, there's tons of content online. There's people. Meagan, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but
Mm.
I guess we don't have a choice now. But
We're not going back.
like, we're not going to edit this, but I'm sure you're okay with this. But Meagan was talking about how she's been approached and she's seen copycats online who are
Mm.
copycatting her business. And I've come across that as well. And I used to have this issue a number of years ago, where I kind of wanted to hold everything. I go, should I do this landing page, because I'm just going to drop so many, like, great pieces of copy and great
Yeah.
ideas and concepts. But here's the thing, ultimately, no one can replicate you.
No, they can't.
They can't
Yeah.
replicate you. So
Laughs on them, laughs on them.
yeah,
I made all the mistakes to get to that point and they haven't yet. The thing is, like, it's clever for them to be able to learn from, like, say, like the way you and I operate our businesses, and like, we can laugh about it. And there is a part where it does sting. You know what it stings for me? It stings for that person that they don't have the confidence to be themselves. And so, but also they don't know how many mistakes I got there to have that big launch, to have that, like, like I run a membership, and membership revenue models, I found out afterwards, of course, they are the most difficult online digital products to scale and grow. So when I see somebody who's like, interested in my membership, very interested in my model, I'm like, oh, honey, it took me over 2 years to get to where I'm at, that I now run the largest Pinterest marketing membership in the world. But man, it took me a long time to get there. And I made all the mistakes, and I took the courses, and I invested in the resources. But when I see someone else doing it, I'm like, that's really great, right? Like this, try it. But listen, as somebody who was started and did it, it's going to take you a while. And I get, like, you can look at what I'm doing, but it's like an art, right? And it took me years to get to where I'm at. And I think that yeah, it's when people are copycatting, I feel sad for them. I try to have empathy and think
it's the flick of the switch in your head that doesn't happen on day one.
no.
You could literally sit next to me or Meagan or other entrepreneurs and business owners and sit with us for a day, and even then that flick of a switch won't happen. Or you could copy everything from anyone, but that flick of a switch will happen when you actually implement and when you're taking action.
Yes.
And most importantly, when you're making mistakes.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely,
when
Neil.
the flick of a switch happens. Now, Meagan, you mentioned your Pinterest membership program. So I'm going to introduce this, by the way. On the right hand side of my on my desk, I have a screen, and I am putting together this Picasso diagram, where I describe, as Meagan talks, I'm going to be drawing on here how what products Meagan sells, her marketing strategy and her sales strategy, so that we can summarize it for those that are watching this or listening in. So if you're watching this video and you're looking at it and going, Neil, why is Neil not looking at Meagan? Why is he being a bit of this weirdo?
Yeah.
Who is this?
You're trying to keep up. You're trying to keep up.
Yeah, exactly. Who is this London-based weirdo who walks around Regent's Park that looks away? It's because I'm doing that. So for those that are watching that, so Meagan, you talked about your membership. Talk us through your offers. What do you offer?
Yeah. So right now, my current offers, I'll start from the very top. So my flagship program is my Pinterest marketing membership. So it's a reoccurring revenue model where people pay a set fee to have a monthly subscription to my program. And so that has changed quite a bit over time, the way that I've evolved it to my unique audience, to the, my program, my own style. And it's funny because it actually is a fairly low ticket offer, in the sense of, it's, some people talk about having like $20,000 coaching programs as their flagship. My flagship is a monthly reoccurring income model. That said, we give discounts if people buy like a year up front or 6 months up front. So that's my flagship. And really the best.
Monthly?
Well, currently it's priced at $77 USD a month. Or if you buy 6 month or 1 year or annual memberships, then you get a discount. So from that, it's like Netflix, right? Like you pay to continue to have access. So we do a lot of monthly, like every month there's new stuff. We have new experts come in, we have new resources. I do training, but you also get ongoing access to me. So I run Q&As, I run copy sessions. It's a blast. And it's really like, we've really refined what that looks like day to day and a weekly basis. And I love it. It's just, we've created an amazing community of over 400 business owners from all different types of businesses. And we love it. So that really, like, the best way of putting it is like all roads end up leading to Pin Potential. And that was something I decided ages ago. I didn't want to come up with a course. I was really worried about a course becoming outdated 3-4 years ago when everybody was asking me. So when I learned about the idea of a membership, it wasn't this actually like people say they're attracted to memberships because of the revenue model. I was attracted because of the learning model, that it's a dynamic learning environment. It's more about, it's constantly shifting and changing. And being in social media, that it moves so quickly. Like every day there's something new coming out of Pinterest. So like, what am I going to update a course every day? No, but I can go in and I can do a 10-minute live. Hey, have you guys seen the new stats? Have you seen the new feature coming out of Pinterest? So it allows me to actually feel good about my training, like talking about feeling ethical and good and things making sense. A course never made sense to me. So from there, I have a few other offers. One of my bigger offers is, over the years of running a Pinterest marketing management business and doing a lot of consultancy, is I would have a lot of people who would join my program or join the membership who were sliding into my DMs and asking me to look at their client accounts. And in the beginning, it was like, oh, sure. And then after a while, I was like, I feel like I'm managing their clients. Like I would tell them what to say. I would look at what was happening. I would offer suggestions for improvements. And then people started coming to me and saying, Meagan, you've been doing this so long. Do you think I could pick your brain about my client? Or I want to become a Pinterest manager. How did you do it? And from that, I never wanted to become a hardcore business coach, but I realized I loved helping other people grow their business models, and not that they have to make like the mistakes that I made, but I could help them find, like, not have to, have that winding route. So I started a coaching program a year ago, January. I did a coaching certification, of course, because I was like, I don't want to become a business coach, without having more tools in my box. My own toolbox of supporting people. So I launched a beta group of mentoring women. I attract mostly women, although we do have some men who want to be more successful Pinterest managers or Pinterest VAs or strategists. So I've been running that now for, it will be 2 years in January or February time. Love it. Absolutely love it. Very time consuming, but it's like a higher ticket item. I run a 6-week program where I offer them mentorship. And then, so those are my two bigger things. I also offer Pinterest
Meagan,
consultancy.
just on that, how much do you charge for that? And it's a 6-week program.
It's a 6-week program. I charge, well, the current rate is, I think I'm actually going to be increasing the price. It was last listed at $14.97, one-time fee. But now that we've been running it for, a year and a half, and we have incredible like case studies and testimonials. So, and I'm so thankful, right, that I've just attracted the best of the best into my world. And it really does, we offer them a lot of tools and resources. So I'm going to be increasing the price. A part of it was like trying to figure out, right, I guess, like, what's the right price point. So that's
starting somewhere, but just, so that's a 6-week program. They get weekly coaching. You're basically helping them build
one-to-one coaching. Yep. And I give them all the tools they need to start their Pinterest management business.
And you were charging $14.97. Okay. Okay.
Increase your rates.
Increase your rates. I mean, now that you've got case studies, but you're right. It's a good, like when you're launching a new business, and you're trying to get the case studies, actually the money's not, the price point.
No, and you know what, Neil, I had to figure out if I like doing it.
Yes.
And I do love doing it. And I love helping other women. Like I get so many people who come to me and they're just burnt out. They have 5 Pinterest management clients. They feel like imposters. They're not making any money. They're spending 20 hours a month on each client. They don't know how to answer client questions confidently. So I kind of feel like it's like, I joke that I'm like a Pinterest mom. Like I pass on the baton and give them the skills, the language, the tools to be able to feel really confident in the work that they're doing. And in some cases, I've actually had 2-3 people now go through the program, wonderful people. And they've said, like, I really, Meagan, you really helped me. I've realized I don't want to do this. So it's like, it happens.
You've turned me off from my future career.
Yeah. Well, I think it was like more like this like funny thing where it's like, they realize that maybe they want to do, like people come thinking it's easy. Yeah. Oh, I'm just going to do some pinning for somebody. And it's like, that's not the way I approach it, right? Like that, there's a reason why I grew very quickly, and I really served my customers because I had a bigger understanding of overall marketing and content marketing and
Yeah.
business, online businesses. So and I try to really help my students feel confident in that, in that same stuff. um, so those are my two big programs, like, that really take up the bulk of my time.
Mhm.
And you can imagine when I run the coaching program, like, my husband's like, oh my God, Meagan, like, so, like, we've gotten bigger each and every launch. I don't put that many resources into launching it because it sells itself, because they're naturally already in my world. They're interested in how I grew my own business. They know they need a business coach, and they don't want a generic business coach that doesn't understand Pinterest.
Mhm.
So it's like they just come to me, right? Like, I don't even have to put that much into it. But what ends up happening is I run 2-hour phone calls every week with a group that generally is small. I like to do, of course, I have some emergency service trucks going by. But it's very time consuming because I also offer one-to-one calls. So last time that I ran the group, we had 20 members. So that's two one-to-one calls.
Oh my God.
That's 6 to 7 calls that we do together, where I keep the group small. Like, it's very intimate. It is really intimate. So it's very time consuming. That yeah, I'm on the phone a lot. I'm or on Zoom
I
a
can
lot.
imagine. That was the first thing I thought actually when you mentioned one
Yeah.
to one.
And so
Actually,
you have to love it. You have to love it. And if you don't, it's just gonna be a soul
well,
sucker.
I would say 1497, 1997, 2497. These are good price points for group coaching.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, you've been doing this for so long, right? You're almost. Why would you want to work with anyone else? So,
Yeah.
you reaching 2997 would probably be quite easy for a group.
Yeah.
I think one to one, you start veering. The mechanics. I think is in my mind is as soon as you go one to one, it's you're veering towards 4, 5, if not more.
Yeah. It's
Hey,
funny because I get asked all the time if a lot of people who graduate from that group program ask me if I'll continue to offer one-to-one. And I'm hesitant to do it because I really like you,
yeah,
I need to make sense of what the structure would look like in a like, I don't want to just, like, I love jumping on calls and, like,
yeah,
brainstorming together, helping them reach clarity. But I also don't like, what's the term, like they'll say here, like, pussyfooting around. Like, I don't want to just jump on a call once a week for 10 weeks and keep asking you about your business goals. Like, I would rather have 2 phone calls where we
yeah,
make a ton of progress. I help you, like, like a mentor or coach's job is not to tell you what to do necessarily, but it's to help you to make those decisions so
yeah.
that you feel confident in your own decisions. Like, I can't, like, I can't come go live their life. They might think that they like my business model, and then they start doing it the same way. Why probably I was quite slow with the group coaching. I really like it, but I find I put a lot into it.
Mm,
And so when I increase the price, I also, there's a part of me that I want to make it accessible to people who are wanting, like, I get a lot of people who are maybe doing something else, but they're making no money.
mm,
And so it's really hard for me from an ethical standpoint that I know that it's very valuable, but I guess that's another thing, right? Like, they come in the program,
mhm.
they're so happy, they can't believe it. They make their money back with, like, sometimes before they even graduate.
Wow.
And then the program sells itself and people speak. It's like old word of mouth, right? Like, people within the Pinterest marketing community. And now it's gotten to a point where I have people who are, who've been in Pinterest marketing for ages and are asking me for coaching. And it's so funny because I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I'm using, I generally mentor people who are newer to the world of Pinterest marketing. But um, from those programs, I realized there was a huge gap. And when I launched the membership, it was a slow burn. And it took me a long time to actually get that revenue up, and and part of it was that I just trial and error, and I had to make
Yeah.
those mistakes, and I had to figure out what worked for me. Just like you, I can't, I can't move forward with something if I don't know what I want, or
Mm,
something doesn't. So it took me a long time, and probably I could have faked it more, and made money quicker. But I just, I had to find my own methodologies for things that
mm,
felt right. But part of it that I realized is I always ask for feedback after launches. So every time I launch, I'll say, why didn't you join? Why didn't you join? Why didn't you join? And, the two biggest things that always come up are budget. I don't have the money and I don't have the time. And I think when you're in the online space, the same person that says I don't have the money, you'll like watch them on Instagram stories and they're like at Starbucks spending $45 on their like lunch and their lattes. And you're like, well, you have 45 bucks for Starbucks, or, you go to Target. Like, I had somebody do that once where they told me they couldn't afford to stay in my membership. And I do really think I offer a lot more than just Pinterest in my membership. And then the next day she did a Sephora makeup haul that was like $200. And I was just like, it's all relative, right? Like she doesn't. And I thought, well, where's this like happening where I think some people are very interested in utilizing Pinterest, but there's a perceived, I'm not sure if I want to invest that much money. Like Instagram, everybody's like, even though not that many people are making money from Instagram, like a lot of people, they like, oh, well, I think even like YouTube falls into that category as well. There's like certain social media platforms or channels that people are very hesitant to invest resources in, strengthening their presence there. And then other ones that are a quick yes. So I realized from that sort of like self-discovery process that I wanted to create some one-off digital products that I could sell to people who wanted to work with me, weren't yet at the place of feeling that they could commit to the membership or to like some sort of, but also wouldn't hire me for a $1,000 or $2,000 one-to-one intensive. So I created these smaller digital products. So prices like $17, $27, $37, and like tiny offer funnels basically. And yeah, it really, it offered something that was great for people who also were worried about the long-term commitment. People hear membership, people hear course, people hear workshop, and they think work. So I wanted to create some things that I could sell that were quick wins. Like you talked earlier about like personally not really being drawn to like templates and swipe files. But the thing is, most people, they might be scarce on time, but they're always looking for shortcuts.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why tiny offers or like digital products are a great solution, because it allows people to get sort of a band-aid solution to get their feet wet. And what I do is I sell tiny offers that are incredibly reasonable, $37. You're getting like $500 worth of resources, and you're going to fall in love with me, and then you're going to buy my product that I want you to buy.
Before we get into that, because now this is where we're gonna get the real juice. All right, guys. So we just I just had to pause the recording because my wife came in, and she met Meagan for the first time, and then they basically talked about kids and family and cooks and all of these things for about 10
crucial
minutes.
things.
Yeah, crucial things. So we had so we got interrupted, right? In terms of, and it's funny because my wife doesn't know this, but you really wanted to come back to this conversation because you're all about business, just like I am. So we're so we're gonna, no, actually we love our families as well.
Of course.
So you were talking, the two big things that you sell, Meagan, is your Pinterest marketing membership. You've got your Pinterest manager business coaching, which sounds super interesting, and a high ticket program, and has a lot of potential. I can just see it. Before we move into the marketing strategy and start talking about tiny offers, is there anything else that brings in revenue today?
So I very selectively work with some people one-to-one doing custom strategy sessions. So I find much more like sophisticated or mature business owners, they still want to work with me to train an in-house employee or the team. So I will craft, like I just did one a week ago today, where, they've been in business for 10 years. They've been playing on Pinterest for years, and they just know they could be getting more out of it. So they pay to do a intensive VIP session with me where I come up, I look at all the pieces, and I tell them what to do, but I don't execute. So either I refer them to somebody who's graduated from my program to execute for them, who I've mentored, or I train their in-house social media manager or provide that guidance. So they have the basic skill set, but they just need somebody to say, do this, do this, do this, check in with me, and then go. So I do them for Pinterest ads and for organic Pinterest marketing strategy.
And how do you price that, your strategy sessions?
So that's been an ever-growing thing. So I do 90-minute sessions and I charge $1,000. And that includes like the research I need to do ahead of time. And then, I am who I am. I often follow up and provide like check-ins afterwards. So that's an evolving thing. I probably undercharge for what I provide.
Really? I was about to say $1,000 for 90 minutes. That's impressive.
I think if you knew how much time I spent, it's funny because I just wrapped up one that I did for ads and I ended up jumping on like a 90-minute session, another 20-minute session. I set something up for that. Like I end up doing a lot of like, just because I want like their success is my success. And because I
Mm.
take on so few of them, I'd rather work with two people potentially undercharge, but have them be super happy. Like I don't even tell people that I offer that. That's just through referrals and people who have met me who say like, we really love Pinterest. We just need somebody to like an expert, right? Like some of us, you get to a point in work where your stage of business where you're like, I could outsource this. I could do that. I just need someone to tell me what to do. And I don't really want to waste my time doing X, Y, and Z. I want to talk to you for 90 minutes. And so, yeah, it involves more like, there's prep and there's follow up. So I count that in my pricing, of course. Um,
You're
and
right.
I,
You're right. There's like you can't, um, because I do similar sessions, but you can't just look at the actual session itself. You have to be ready for that call. You have had
oh,
to.
yeah,
You need to know that client. You need to know their business. You need to look at their website, prepare any questions. There's a bit
exactly.
of time, right?
Mhm.
As well as the.
And ask the right questions, right? Like I want people to feel like that 90 minutes is really value packed and then I follow up. And actually it's funny because I'm now just thinking about it. I think I did increase my price about 30 days ago to $14.97.
Wow.
It just shows you though that like it's like an ever again, it's much like my coaching program that I'd rather start a bit lower and scale up. And know what I really love about the custom strategies is they're exciting for me too. Like I don't I miss that. Like I always resented when I was in graduate school where I would work with these professors. They hadn't met a kid in 15 years, but they were telling me how to do stuff. And so I think to keep my finger on the pulse, doing the custom strategies allows me to see what is continuing to happen with brands and business owners on Pinterest. And I tend to attract more mature, sophisticated business owners. And so like what we end up talking about, it invigorates me, right? And like seeing their business model, helping them identify leaks in the sales funnel or things that they have to improve. And I'm a no BS person, right? Like that's part of the one thing is that when I get newer people and like you just get behind the scenes and it's a mess. They don't know how they're making money. They don't really know what they're selling. Their sales page is awful. They have no nurture sequence, all these things that are missing. But then when you get on a call with people who really know and love what they've been doing, it's like, it's just like fire. It's like, oh yeah, this. And that's when the success happens.
Yeah, totally. You're working at that level now, and
Yeah.
that's a whole different experience. I totally get that. Okay, cool. So we've got your three programs, or your
Mhm.
membership, your business coaching program, the custom strategy sessions. Talk to us. I remember when we first spoke,
Mm.
and you were talking to us about this, talking to me about this marketing strategy and your tiny offers, your Facebook
Mhm.
ads, and it was so simple, and I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. So describe that for me, how that works and how you basically bring in customers. Is that mainly for the membership?
Yeah, well, mostly. So it's interesting because I've really changed. And it was somebody who said it to me ages ago. She said, Meagan, like very obviously, you love the membership and it's where you put a lot of your passion and your ideas and it's where you're like putting a lot of your energy. But what about your one-to-one clients? So I still have two clients. I've slowly scaled down all my retainer clients. And at the time, this woman said to me, Meagan, why don't you have your clients join your membership? And I was like, oh my gosh, no, like they're paying me for VIP one-to-one access. And it took me a long time, but I've actually done it. So what I do is because they love working with me, is that I encourage them to hire a VA. They buy like a 1-year membership, so their VA has access to me, but somebody lower level executes the Pinterest strategy. they have the ability to email me or ask questions in our Facebook group. And they save money because like you can buy a year in my membership for what 1 month of me would have cost. And they can still ask questions, but it's not me executing the work. So when it comes to, and that's why I kind of come back to this, that really I try to make it that all roads lead to the membership. So
Mm.
even when people get a custom strategy with me, I wrap up the call or I follow our next steps are. And now that we've done our custom strategy together that you're very excited about, if you want long-term sort of drip support, have someone from your team join my membership, and then you can continue to ask me questions in that group format. So when I market, you and I talked about this and we went down that road sort of accidentally, is that I think, and I've done some like training actually in my membership about it, is you talk about like omnipresence or omni marketing. I have to be really honest and say that I'm pregnant, and this time around, like this year has been very different for me because I didn't feel like myself. So I don't feel as good about my marketing. It's funny because probably outwardly everyone thinks it's fine, but I've kind of feel like it's not been as organized. But what I do is I look at creating content that's focused on my website. So everything comes from my content marketing plan, and I use like a tentacle approach. So I base the core of my best ideas and content on my website, and then I adapt and repurpose for all my channels. So I use obviously Pinterest because that's where I'm putting all my blog content. Instagram. I have a large Facebook community of 8,000 members. Email marketing. I have a fairly large or substantial email list. And I have a YouTube channel that I don't use very much, but that was on my goals of this year, but I had to sort of let it go because I just it just didn't make it in. And so that ecosystem of like my own marketing that I take care of, but then I also invest a lot in collaborations and being featured. So virtual summits, podcasts, opportunities like this. I really love talking with other people. I'm a little bit more selective now as time has gone on, but I do try to engage in some sort of, like outreach into someone else's community.
Mhm.
And I run paid advertising, not all the time. So I'm constantly looking to grow my email list and grow my specific audiences in the different locations, so that when I launch something like I run challenges to launch my membership, I'm always looking to grow my audience in between, so that when I do my live event, I have a whole new group of people, or even people who have listened to me for a while. But I find that live events work really well for me. I'm not good with pre-structured, I have a script. I'm going to sit down and create 3 videos and you're going to show up and then I'm going to get you to buy my program. I'm awful at that. So
Mhm.
I do live challenge training, and I find I've really, really grown and attracted the right people using that methodology.
Love that. So let me just unpick some of this. So you have a content marketing plan. You have this
Mhm.
tentacle approach where we create blog content, and then you will reshare that to Pinterest, Instagram, email marketing, the YouTube channel sometime in the future. What I do in this instance, this might be something you consider, is I create the video script first. In fact, this month is the first time I am I'm having our team involved, rightfully,
Mm.
which we're launching. Depending on when we publish this, we're launching that in August, beginning of August. So I'm using myself as a case study. So I'm saying, hey, if there's a coach that comes along, I want you to create a video script. So they've actually
Mm.
chosen, they came back to me the other day, they said, Neil, it's actually easier for us to do your blog first, and
Oh,
then we're going to do the video script.
yeah.
So I get the blog, the video script, I shoot the video, and then we create the other content. So we'll create an Instagram carousel
Yeah.
from it, and then so when you are ready for the YouTube channel, I personally preferred starting with the script, because the script for me is
Mm.
easier to write, because it's just how I talk. And then I can
Yeah.
hand the script over to a writer to do the blog. So when
Yeah.
you come to your YouTube channel, if you want to control some of your voice, do the script. And now that I've got a ton of videos, now the team are using my videos to do scripts in my voice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it gives them like a jumping off point. That's just the thing though, right? Like they can't figure, you have to have that methodology and know yourself and your voice,
Yeah.
and then other people, you can bring people in. I actually, Amy Porterfield said that once, and I think it was actually, I forget, Ray Edwards who taught her this. Like, you can't outsource your own voice until you know what your voice is. And
Right.
that's what actually, so when I find starting with the blog is the best place for me because I do my own research. Everyone who works with me and who's on my team knows about the process of Meaganizing things, no matter what. And this actually lines up perfectly with our conversations about ethics and making mistakes and really owning it. Is that I can't put things out. I love looking at swipe files. I love looking at templates for just as inspiration and ideas.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I cannot put something out that doesn't actually feel like me and my voice. And that's just part of me. And it probably holds me back. It means I'm not always consistent. But when I do put something out, it's, it's me. I've touched it. And like, ask anyone who works with me. Like right now, I'm getting ready to go on leave. I have something like 10 blog posts that are bottlenecked at me. I have all the images have been created by my graphic designer. They're all being made SEO, like, retitled, and they're all sitting there. But I'm the person that does the last swipe. I update and I schedule. And they're like, Meagan, just let us do it. And I'm like, no, I can't. I just like, it's like part of me, like, no, people don't give over their inbox.
That's so interesting. It's so relevant right now, actually. Literally yesterday, I hired for the very first time in my life. So for the very first time on my blog, um,
Yeah.
I'm having someone else write the content, i.e.,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
feeding the original. But for the other very first time, just yesterday, I hired a publishing assistant
Oh,
who
lovely.
we'll look at the calendars, we'll look at Instagram strategy, we'll look at the YouTube channel. This video is for the How Do You Make Money channel. Then I've got my other channel. So,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I don't know if it's going to work or not, and how happy I'm going to be. But I've processed, I've proceduralized everything so that if it doesn't go so well, I'm going to go somewhere else and see and try and find someone else. But
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, and it's about finding people who also can work with your unique style. Like I'm very upfront that I'm oftentimes like it's not that the person isn't very talented, it's just that I can't release something out into the world unless I feel really good about it. And I would, like I and so like yeah, just like you actually. So we create the blog content, we create the images for the blog. From there, I adapt and come up with a carousel or like a concept of some sort of illustration that I'll post to Instagram. We create the YouTube cover. So I have like all 15 YouTube cover photos. I just haven't filmed the videos. I prep everything so that when I want, and I even just came upon a stash of like really good ideas. So I try to use that jumping off point
Mm.
to create like, and I adapt it. And I think that's the difference. Like when I was researching omnipresence marketing, there's omni-channel. So you just take one thing and you like, and lots of marketing agencies do that. And it's really like, ooh, but I'm really intentional that I'll think, well, what would this look like when I put it on my Instagram feed post?
Mm.
Am I going to make a reel? What does it look like as a reel? What does it look like as an idea pin on Pinterest? And like, what am I hoping for this to achieve? Or for me, like I really, my two biggest things are, and even if like the direct line of my content marketing plan, it's funny because everything stems from my blog, but it's probably like I really heavily invested in organic search and Pinterest traffic, and then my email marketing. So that's where I put the bulk of my
Yeah.
resources in terms of my marketing budget.
Yeah.
Obviously paid ads as well, but like everything, paid ads is for when like I'm ramping up, and everything else in between is my like people getting to know me, establishing who I am, what I do, what my authority is, why I'm different, why you might not like me, why you might like me. Like I try to do a lot of that like work in between launches so that there's no surprise, right? Like
It's
it's
so
not sort of like,
important though, isn't it? It's like having a mix of brand. So for those watching this,
mhm,
listening to this, it's a real mix of brand content, then you've got paid advertising. And the
mhm,
cool thing is your paid ads longer term, you'll spend less if your content is engaging, if you've got a brand,
Yes.
if you're owning your email list as opposed to having to retarget them every time you want to speak to them,
Oh
right?
yeah, well, and they're not gonna get, like, there's other Pinterest marketing people out there, and that's why actually, like, I really ramp up that the ads are just so people don't forget, and
Yeah.
the ads are so people can initially hear about me, but I convince them via my real organic strategy. And it's very, very rare that somebody buys cold from an ad, like, it, like for maybe my tiny offers, like, 27.37, but not my membership and not the programs that I'm really invested in. So for me, it's the core of what I do is my weekly schedule or my monthly schedules that don't always get fully executed, but it's there for when I want. And actually, I'm so grateful. I have all this content that I've been actively planning since last November. And if I plan, one thing a week, maybe three go out. So I have all this backlog, and I'm about to, have a quiet summer and get used to having a new baby in my family. And I'm so grateful that I've done all that work because it's all just sitting there waiting for me, right?
Yeah, it's brilliant. So, and then we've got the paid ads, and you talked about running a
Mm.
challenge to grow the membership. Now, the paid ads isn't something you run all the time, but when you do run it, what does your challenge look like? Is it a paid challenge or is it a free challenge?
So I do a free challenge. Lots of people talk about that it should be paid because it's so valuable, but I like to kill people with kindness and or value. So I really do find that I have like exponentially grown my business and my membership when I realized that I didn't do well with scripted events, that a live event that I provide, like I want people to say, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is free. Oh my God, I can't believe the value," because the right people will say, if she's doing this part for free, imagine what it would be like to be in her membership.
Mm.
And so the people who still they come and they participate, and I don't. That's another thing is I'm not somebody, if you say to me, like I've had some real, like, like real awful stories, like my husband's sick, especially like, I have a lot of my audience isn't based in the US, and we know how much they've been impacted by everyone has by the pandemic, but in particular in the US, it seems like a lot of my audience, my husband's lost his job, my husband's had COVID for 6 weeks and is hospitalized, I'm not making any money. I'm like, and they're like, I would love to join you. I'm like, please, no, like, you don't have the financial resources right now. When your life stabilizes and I don't want people to come into my program and be under financial stress. Like, I wouldn't do that to myself. So don't do it to you. But what I run a free 5-day challenge, and what we do is we do 5 days of training, 4 days of hardcore training. The fifth day is a Q&A. And I find it is wonderful because people learn I'm a bit different. They learn that I'm quirky. They get a sense of my personal touch. So I answer questions. I'm heavily involved. It's not this sort of like, I fly in and I'm just whatever, but like it's like real, right? Like I'm talking to people who are actually there and doing the work.
Mhm.
And it gives people a taste for what it would be like to actually work with me. So the 4 days are structured on core things that I teach in the membership in much greater detail. And it's a blast. It's fun. We've done it now 5 times. I do think I'm getting, my husband says, he's like, I can notice that, like, I get a kick out of doing things for the first time, like a thrill. So by the fifth time, I'm like, it's like a well-oiled machine. And he's like, Meagan, it's almost like it's too well-oiled. Like, I love when things are a little bit like,
Too comfortable for you.
yeah, too comfortable. So I've got too comfortable. So I think I am going to shake it up. But we've had our highest launches ever using this methodology. And it took me a long time to find it.
But what does that actually mean? So when you say my highest launches, is that because at the end of the 5-day challenge, you launch a product? Is that where the tiny
Yeah,
offer comes
so
through?
we open up the so we run the membership as a closed membership. It only opens well, right now 3 times a year, 4 times a year. So we launch the membership typically for 5 days. Sometimes this last time I think I did a 6-day open cart. So on day 3 of the 5-day challenge, um, when I'm done doing the lesson for that day, I let people know that Pin Potential's open. And then I spend the next few days talking about well, like teaching, but then also leading into my program. And so, yeah, That's the model we use.
And what does where does the tiny offer sit in all of this? The
The
37.
tiny offer is just running. So it's funny because I use the tiny offer for two things. The tiny offer runs in between launches. What's funny though is I'm actually changing them. So I haven't actually been actively selling them for a few months, but the tiny offers bring in buying customers in between my launches. So I found that I was growing my email list and getting a lot of people who are interested in free stuff but never wanted to buy. So what I do is I run cold traffic ads to my $37 offer. And those people often become repeat buyers. So once they see my toolkits and start using it, they often then see the value of how much I provide in my teachings. And then they buy Pin Potential the next time we open. So we run it in between to grow our email list with buyers. But I also use it after I launch Pin Potential and close the cart. I use it as a downsell. And so I started doing that last October. And well, no, that's a lie. I tested it a year ago, but I half-assed it. Like I didn't really. I just did one offer. I didn't have a funnel in place. Like, and when I say funnel, like main offer, bump, and an OTO. And then in October, we offered a main offer and a bump, and we increased our launch revenue by $5,000.
What's your biggest launch?
Depends. If you exclude my summit that I ran, which is technically a launch, that was our biggest ever. But our biggest launch for Pin Potential was over $40,000.
Wow, impressive. Okay, I've got so many notes. As you were talking, I realized
I never said that out loud, by the way.
Have you not? Well,
only my husband and my accountant know that.
Well, there you go. That's what this channel, How Do You Make Money, is all about. So if you're loving the conversation, this is the first time I'm doing this actually. If you're loving the conversation, hit the subscribe bell because I would massively appreciate it. And also go follow Meagan on Instagram because she's doing great. So I am learning a ton here. And I know we've been speaking for a very long time. So we're going to wrap this up in about 5 now. So I've got a really great understanding. I'm going to show you this in a very quick sec, but your sales strategy for all of this is basically the landing page. You're not getting on the phone, are you? You're not speaking.
Never.
Well, this is
I don't talk to anybody.
Well,
no. Well, DM. I tell people to DM me. I'm very generous with my time in if people DM me. I encourage people to ask me questions, but I don't hop on calls for anything.
Got it.
Unless you have paid me.
This is amazing. Okay. And we talked about the custom strategy session, no active marketing. That just, people just come, right?
It sells itself. People find out, friends of, oh, my friend hired you. Are you offering those? Do you have one available for August? And I take them when I want them. I say no. Well, oh yeah. Anyways, I also get paid sometimes to do speaking gigs. So I do I'll run workshops for other people. I'm a partner with Pinterest. And so I sometimes run workshops with Pinterest.
How much do you charge for speaking?
It depends. When it's somebody like Pinterest, they often let me know what the budget is, so they set it. And when it's speaking, it's funny because I've said no to a lot because I find I rather own my own resources and sell them and repeatedly sell them. But I've charged anywhere from $500 when I was first starting out to a few $1,000s. It depends what it involves. If they're looking for my intellectual property and to be able to keep selling it, I charge a lot more. It depends. I do a lot of speaking for free. That said, most of my speaking gigs are free, but there are brand related activities that I do that are paid.
Yeah, I enjoy speaking. I'm just going to move my
So do I. I love it. It's fun, right? It's
fun.
Great.
It's great. I've never been paid for it, to be totally honest, and it does take a lot of time. So yeah, I wouldn't mind. Maybe that's something post-COVID I'm going to start looking into. Yeah. In fact, I did another interview with a friend called Pete, and he uses a speaking agency. And he charges between $2,500 to $5,000. So that just makes sense. So I might just, who knows, go speak to a
Well,
speaking.
there are these agencies, and they like, you have your keynote. I know someone who does it, and he charges, I'm not sure if it's Canadian or American, but $10,000 a talk, and they cover all of his expenses. So that said, when I see some of the places where he gets brought in, I think like, oh, I don't know if I would want to do that. I'm very selective now. Like, I ask a lot of questions when I'm going to have my name attached to something. Who's there? What diversity initiatives do you have? Who else is speaking? I'm very cognizant. One thing I notice about that particular situation, I don't want to give away too many details, but the rooms are often very homogenous, and I feel like I personally, like, I see it, and I'm like, it doesn't feel, I look at it and I think, well, I wouldn't want to be aligned with that agency, because look where they're putting that person. And then what does that say about their business model? Like, it doesn't feel like an inclusive, diverse business model to me when I see like a room of, like, there was one in particular, I feel, but I'm just going to say it, like, I'm not somebody who just speaks my mind. I saw, and there was like an Instagram boomerang, and it was American. The room was completely white old men who were like 70, all white hair, like all Donald Trumps, like a sea of Donald Trumps. And I said to the person, I said, how come there's no women in the room or anyone who looks like they're from a different background? And their response was, oh, well, I didn't book it, like I was brought in. And I said, but don't you think it was your responsibility to ask about why? Like, I'm not, it's a room of CEOs, and I don't see a single woman, I don't see any, like, anyone from a different background. I personally don't want to be on that stage. And I made it very uncomfortable for the person. They thanked me for bringing it up, and that they would talk to the agency about it. So that's where I get worried. Like, I don't want that, but that's like my personal thing that it matters to me. But
Yeah, I totally agree. It reminds me of when we first went on Clubhouse, and I was organizing a room with Pat Flynn, Andrew Warner, Joe Polizzi, and Pat Flynn was up for it, Joe Polizzi was on it, Andrew Warner was up for it, and then I was just talking to Andrew, and we were like, but there's no women, and we need different voices, and we literally were just, from day one, we were just going out there trying to find as many people, women in particular, entrepreneurs, that could join. And we were struggling, to be honest. And we didn't really want to go ahead with the event with 4 blokes all talking in Clubhouse. We wanted.
Well, and I know these things can happen by mistake, right? Like, I got called out 2 weeks ago for being an event that was all women. And I was like, and by a man that I have actually spoken with before. He said, and it was like, he was a little bit saying it in jest, but actually said, like, well, you're right. Thank you. Like, you're right that there, like, it's sort of like, we have to start to say these things and ask these questions. And I think that often too, it's interesting to see what people's responses are, but that's like part of, like, we're doing business, and we're like, we should be taking responsibility for, and personal responsibility for, creating inclusive environments. Like, if you want women to attend your Clubhouse call, then I think it creates comfort when you see women up on stage being welcomed at the table, instead of just saying, oh, well, there's a place for you to listen. It's like, it's important for us to as ethical entrepreneurs to create opportunities where people feel welcome, right? Like, it's not just about talking about it, like, do it.
I totally agree. We ended up with 2 women, which was awesome.
Good.
We had a great room. So before I show you this and the audience this this highly technical diagram that depicts Meagan's business,
I'm interested to see.
I really talked it up, haven't I? But Meagan, for those watching this, listening to this, they're entrepreneurs. They really want to take their business to the next level. You've clearly grown. You've really grown something special. I think from my eyes, what I'm super impressed by is the fact that you've got, like, actually I'm envious of this to an extent, is your focus. Your focus on building a Pinterest only business. Like, and this, right? You've taken a business coaching program, but you've been doing launches. You've probably, ClickFunnels probably inside out. You've been doing your own Facebook ads from
Mhm.
memory. You've put together these tiny offers. As an entrepreneur, if I was in your shoes, I'll be going, oh, wait, I could just teach people how to do launches. I could teach
Yeah,
people
I
how to
could.
do
And I
Facebook.
can make a lot more money doing it, Neil.
Yeah,
I could do
totally.
all
But,
those things.
but actually, doing all of those things, would it make you a lot less on the Pinterest business? Because growing a membership, and you know this more than I do, growing a membership to 400 is massively impressive because it is hard.
It's really
It
hard.
is it is
Mhm.
really, really hard. And imagine
Yeah.
400 people plus all paying you $77 a month.
Mhm.
Now, you
Mhm.
guys watching this, now you can do the maths. That's impressive. And that's
Mhm.
because they get so much value from
Mhm.
Meagan. So, Meagan, I don't want to spoil your tip here, but I just wanted to share that because,
Yeah, you know what? I think we said it earlier. It's a double-edged sword. It's a gift and a curse to be relentless.
Mhm.
I don't give up when things don't work out the way I want. I've had lots of disappointments. I've had launches where I thought we should have made, you know, X amount, or launches where we hit exactly where we did the time before. But instead of, like wallowing in self-pity and thinking, oh, this, or look what this other person's doing, um, I'm relentless in making what I have work. And so it's not that it's broken, it just, I need to keep refining it. And part of that was really leaning into what works for me, not for other people. Sticking to my guns with Pinterest. There has been so many times, and I have a few friends that we talk on a regular basis, where maybe if I just did business coaching, maybe if I did just marketing, overall marketing strategy. I get asked all the time. I used to run marketing for a social media marketing for a huge multiple 8-figure company based here in Toronto. Like, I know how to do that stuff, but it doesn't mean that, one, I like it, that it fulfills me. I and so I admittedly, Pinterest is a very hard niche to make money from. And so I have just stuck to it. And like, I think there's like an example, people talk about, and I love pit bulls, but like people say, like a pit bull, right? That you do not, I have not let go. Um, and I have not given up, because I really believe in what I'm doing and staying in my own lane. And so I encourage anybody, don't give up, keep working, believe in what you're doing, because when and don't try to just copy what other people are doing. You have to figure, and I tried that, right? Like, I did this, I did that, I've done little things, and we didn't talk about those things. There's been things that I've invested in that didn't turn into any ROI for me. There's been things that have been mistakes that turn into beautiful learning opportunities. But you and I are very similar in that I own my mistakes, I own my successes, but I am relentless. So when something, I am, like, I actually had a financial goal of this year. And then when we decided that we were really hoping to grow our family, I had to have that, like, little, like, what are they, I don't like this saying because it's very genderized, but like, I adjusted my crown a little bit. I'm like, I don't know if I can have $1 million a year plus have a baby. Like, it's a hard
Yeah.
thing to keep. But it was like, to me, like, having a baby is like having $1 million a year, right? It is like,
Oh,
and next year was going to be big, and I have lots of plans, and like, probably, to each their own. I'm very hard on myself. I'm very, very, like,
mm.
I'm all constantly, the launch ends and I'm like, James, this is what we can do better next time, this is
You're
what
on
we're
it.
going to test.
You're relentless,
I
and
am
they.
relentless, and it's a fault. And you know what? I love it, and it makes people laugh, and at the same time, it's a good and bad thing. But I really encourage people, you know, part of it was really learning what works for me, and accepting what wasn't going to work for me. And look at other people, like mentoring and modeling and trying out things and making sure it makes sense for you. Don't just copy what other people are doing, because that's never going to result in a business that you love or makes you money. It will make you some money, but it's never going to scale. And so when you can live and breathe and really embody everything that you do, like, everything just happens. It does. And it takes time to get there. It took me years, right? My son is 4.5. I started my business full time when he was 4 months old with the support of my husband. So I was working part time, breastfeeding and
Mm.
adjusting to life with a newborn. Um, with, like I said, a beautiful bomb that went off in my life, but I loved working and I always loved what I did, and it just took time.
Mm. And you've heard it there. It's just it's the idea of keeping going, even when
Mm-hmm.
things are stacked against you. You make mistakes, you lose money.
And it
Um,
all takes time, right?
it
Like
does
it's just not, it's not going to be, you know, like once in a while you do. And of course I see someone who teaches about launching and I'm like, man, look at them, they're making like $100,000 launch because they're talking about launching. I know a lot about launching now. I've tried lots of methodologies. I'm really good at honing in on what other people should be doing, like taking my own advice. Like I'm most, you know, I scrutinize more when it's me because I have different standards for myself, but I don't, that's not my thing, right? Like it's not. And so it's like you could see people, or even like, yeah, content or social media marketing, like there's all these different facets, but you have to love what you do to be able to do it every day. Like the reason why you get up and you only have 5 hours of sleep, Neil, or you take that like extra walk after a business meeting is because you love what you do, and you're constantly redefining what that passion looks like for you and how you can better help people while this landscape is changing rapidly. And that's why you're always going to be one step ahead,
yeah.
because you have your own unique thinking in the way that you see it, and nobody can do that, right? Like no, the same way that for me nobody sees it in the same way that I do and explains it the same way I do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Redefining yourself is just it's. I feel like, for the last 5 years I've been in business, I've just been redefining
Mm-hmm.
until I feel like we're there.
Yeah.
There's moments when
But how do you know when you're there? Will you ever actually get there? I don't think you will, Neil, because you're just going to keep changing, right?
yeah,
Like you just,
I think, like, in our business we're completely redefining what we do when we launch our new brand.
mm,
And I feel like I would have done the big enough redefinition, and then it's about small incremental
yeah.
redefinition. So it's almost like you launch your business, and just like you kind of found yourself to memberships, right? And
Mm,
whoever launches their business, chances are you won't end up doing what you're doing today. You're going to make this big leap
mm.
like I'm doing right now, and Meagan's done so well. And then when you're at that place, you're on the island, you've made that big leap, and you're kind of settled, but now you're doing it up, you're improving it.
Yeah, or you start to get like that, your feet, you start to like, you just itch for the new, nut more. And that's what James says. He's like, you're never just happy. Like, you know, like it's always like, how can we keep making this better? How can we keep changing
Yeah.
it? And that's like true entrepreneurs, right? I think that you have to love that. It's always that like next
You
thing.
do. Which is why we're launching I showed you earlier, why we're launching our own side project as a team, and that's where that entrepreneurial spirit, I think, that's what satisfies me. Without that,
Mm.
and then the three things are I'm happy with. So this is awesome. I am going to share how Meagan makes money today, and then we are going to wrap this.
Again, Neil, you get me to share stuff that I don't share with anybody.
I love that. I love that. I love how transparent you are. So, Meagan, can you see this?
Yeah, looks
Okay,
great.
awesome. So let me just summarize this for everyone watching this. So, Meagan has been in business, and she is a Pinterest marketing strategist. You call it, she's an expert in the Pinterest space. And she has a number of ways she works with clients and makes money today. One of the biggest ways is she has a Pinterest marketing membership program, where she offers training, live videos on Facebook. She has coffee Q&As, and she's built up a really good community of 400 plus
Mm.
people, who all pay her a monthly $77, or there's an annual discount. It's not available all the time, but she runs it 3 or 4 times a year, maybe slightly more. But it is a closed community, and it is a community of people that stay and pay. And
Mhm.
one thing is getting people to pay to be a part of a membership. Actually, the hardest thing is getting people to actually stay and not just rip off all of your content and go, hey, I've now got everything, I don't need this anymore. It's building that community. That's why people stay. And I love the fact that you purposefully chose to do a membership,
Mm.
because you didn't like the idea of publishing a Pinterest course and then going, but hold on, Pinterest are launching material and new features every week, every day. I'm not just going to engineer this new training program, like re-engineer it every week because for free. Um, Actually, a membership makes more sense. And I think I totally agree with you. And I actually didn't think of it like that. So that's created some thought in my head. Meagan also realized when she's been working with this community that there's been Pinterest managers who have been working with clients, but they might need help with how to manage clients, how to schedule calls, how to schedule pins, how to get their clients ultimately better results. So on the back of that, Meagan took a business coaching program and launched a 1497 6-week program, which he's looking to increase the prices soon. So for those that see this interview or hear this interview, reach out to Meagan. Please don't expect it to be 1497.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to get in trouble. And then, Meagan doesn't do this all the time, but there's higher end clients who need a bit of a custom relationship, consideration, training, strategy sessions, basically one-to-one. And impressively, Meagan charges $1,000 for 90 minutes. As we know, it's not actually 90 minutes. There's some upfront time and some time afterwards, but that price is increasing to $14.97, which is awesome. And then Meagan also does her speaking. So whenever she's invited to speak, she might be doing some paid speaking. She also does some free speaking. So this is how Meagan makes multiple 6 figures a year. And like I was saying, like just as you can see, there's a theme here, right? It's all about Pinterest. And the cool thing is these are almost like tiers, right? Someone pays for the strategy, that's a high-end tier, and then she'll introduce them to the low-end tier as an ongoing basis. Someone might come to the low-end tier, the membership, and then she might go, hey, actually, you might need business coaching. So I love how she's got this as a flywheel where, one program promotes the other program potentially. Now, let's look at how Meagan drives customers. Meagan's a real example of what I love to see in businesses implementing and strategically thinking about marketing, thinking about the brand side of marketing and then thinking about the paid side of marketing and how the two come together. Now, Meagan mentioned earlier, she's got this tentacle approach to her content marketing plan. If you want to see what that looks like, just go stalk Meagan. But she is she's publishing blog content. She's sharing that on Pinterest. She's sharing that on Instagram. She's sharing that to her email marketing. Ultimately, she will be doing YouTube. Ultimately, she's creating this engaged audience. Whenever there's opportunities to do virtual summits or interviews like this or podcasts, Meagan's on it. And so ultimately, she's growing her email list just organically. Like that's just free. And then what she'll do is she'll boost it with paid ads, primarily Facebook ads. And she'll use this tiny offer, this concept of a tiny offer where she offers this thing, whether it's a template, swipe file, whatever it is, for $37. It's like super cheap. But what she does, and the $37 is most likely not bringing in a profit. If anything, it's breaking even or making a small profit. But what that does is it separates the real buyers to the kind of window shoppers, right? And that's super clever because now she's growing her email list. And guess what? When her challenge comes up, when she wants to open up the challenge and open up the doors to her membership, guess what, guys? She's got a great audience of people who are hungry to basically be part of a free challenge and then introduce them, as you can see down here, introduce them to the membership on day 3. And day 5 is all about Q&A and building that intimacy and building that relationship. So in summary, guys, think about your paid strategy, organic. If you don't have a budget, focus on the organic, grow the budget, grow the flow here, the sales funnel, and then add in and sprinkle in paid. And that's what Meagan's strategy looks like. She does not do anything else apart from this. She's built our relationship. She's built up her authority in the Pinterest space where people reach out to her, want to be part of a community. And when they've got really good results, guess what? They're going to be sharing this with everyone else in other Pinterest communities to go, hey, check out Meagan's stuff. It's awesome. Like if you want to avoid like, working out what to do on Pinterest tomorrow yourself, just be part of Meagan's community. It's $77. You probably spend more on that at coffee, but ultimately you're going to get better results. It's quicker. And more importantly, you're part of a group who all think alike, right?
Yeah.
And then what's simple is, as Meagan put it, she does no selling. Landing page, she invites DMs and email questions for questions and answers. And that's what brings in the dollars.
I love it. I love seeing it like this, Neil. It's so cool. It's my value ladder. You just broke down my value ladder in my marketing, and that's exactly it, right? Like
Any
it's
changes? Would you change anything?
no, I do have some plans to change a few things. Expanding my tiny offers actually. So I'm actually rolling out a tiny offer to lead into the business coaching. Because yeah, so I have tiny offers that lead into the two main streams, but I haven't officially announced that yet. But it was like again, like I've seen the value of bringing in buying customers, and actually one of my goals is you're not wrong that I often either break even or have a small profit from my tiny offers. It was up and down. Like some months were really good, others. I want to scale my tiny offers so that they're more profitable. I always made a profit, but it was like a small amount. So I'm looking again, like it's like that tweak, right? Like, what can I do to refine that?
Love that.
So those are my two goals.
And I can see that focus. So amazing. Thank you so much for your time. This has gone on for way longer than
I know. I think you're gonna have to break it up into 2 or 3 sessions.
No, we're just gonna publish
edit.
This is amazing. There's gonna be no edits. This is like this is Meagan just opening up the doors to her business. So look, thanks so much for everything you've put in here. And for those watching this, listening to this, please do comment, please do message Meagan, follow her, as she's been awesome. She's spent years building this business, and here we are breaking this down. So
I feel naked. I really do. I don't share this with other people. And for people who have made it through the whole interview, like it really is, it will be some hidden gems there, because I do feel very, like I joke, my husband, my accountant, they know those numbers. I don't often share them just because I'm like, it's not like I'm hiding it, but it's just one of those things that, it's not part of my core marketing to say like, oh, I make X amount of money. I'll show you. It's just not part of my thing, but I am fascinated by money and how people make money and continue to increase it. Right. Like it's a very interesting thing.
I love that you said that, because it's actually not part of my core marketing either until I decided to launch this channel, because this is genuinely, this is when I meet business owners, I love this stuff. Like I honestly love this stuff. So selfishly, I'm having this conversation for me, and then I'm just recording it for everyone else to listen in.
Yeah. Well, you're very good at it, Neil.
well, Meagan, where can people find you?
Yeah, so my website, meaganwilliamson.com. My program is called Pin Potential. So if you just search Pin Potential, you can find me on Instagram, Meagan A. Williamson. But really, I send all people to my website because that kind of allows you to see a little bit of everything. But you can either, I'm Meagan Williamson across all the channels. So if you just look that up, you'll find me.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time. High five. Thanks, Meagan.
You're welcome.